actually have a renegade or a tyrant that would be a tyrant of a universal primordial family breaking away and trying to create a universe of its own outside of the original source. Botches the job, but nevertheless creates a simulation of the original source, which can only be acted out as a series of illusions to support this debauchery. And the ultimate deterioration or misfortune is that the very essence or light particles or souls that is in the primordial world or the original source will eventually get trapped in this cosmic abortion that was set up by this tyrant and would have to be a part of this tyrannical creation for years to eventually clean this shit up.
Okay.
That would make the original source greater than the original source was, that would have a flaw in it to even create a tyrant that would break away from the original source. And it would never fall again. So in so many words, we're only talking about creation sifting out flaws of its own
self.
Essence to make a greater and perfected product.
Gotcha.
Now,
so many words from the beginning.
Yeah.
There was no perfection.
Yes. That's why they call it chaos.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, that was the scientific element. The other element was you had a great mother. She had a son on abortion who didn't stay in long enough to form itself to maturity that jumps ship. Comes down and creates its own childlike world like a child would do. Right. A child's world is going to be different than an adult's world. The adult's world is going to be more fortified. You see what I'm saying? And more to the essence.
It sounds a little bit like
and the essence. But the child's world is going to be a play world or an illusionary world. Well, whatever this particular person that would later on be called God by the very parents that it would later on trap in this world. It's like a cancer in the original body succumbing to a cancer, though benign in the beginning, malignant in the end. You see?
Yeah, gotcha.
And then set up a series of creations within the context of creation and in the context of a man and woman or life that is started in this counterfeit creation would set up a series of events and struggles to get back to the original source. The rest is history. You see.
Damn. That's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
That's it in a nutshell.
You made it clear.
Any questions?
Wow. So, with the original set, and I know there's different. You said the pre-dynastic period, then it's the dynastic period. So you saying that in the dynastic period, the Hemmites in the dynastic period was basically ignorant?
That's one aspect of it. I'll do you one better. One aspect of it is a history of people, the latter, becoming ignorant of the former.
Okay.
One aspect is a direct movement of cosmic forces that wants to sustain its abortion and inadequate creation, directly affecting a solution put into that abortion that would ultimately correct that abortion or that debauchery.
Okay.
So we also have a history of a group of conspirators, cosmic conspirators, called the Archons, the Demiurge. All this is in your Nag Hammadi library. Stuff dug up in 1945 in ancient Kemet, which is later day Coptic Kamite philosophy that is actuality the translated philosophy of the Meta into the Coptic. If we finally get what the Pharaonic thought is really talking about, when we get it closer to a modern aspect of languages that later on will even lead to English, Latin, Greek, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Aramaic, Hebrew, all the modern languages and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? But we call that Nag Hammadi research, what the ancient person called it Gnosticism.
Okay.
Get Kirk Rudolph's book, Gnosis.
Gnosis.
I think it's Kirk Rudolph. As well as Bentley Layton's Gnostic Scripture, the Nag Hammadi Library, and so many books on Gnosticism, which is just modern day Egyptian.
Okay.
You know, so we're talking about actual pharaonic thought that in its hieroglyphic form it would be in fragments or either in lockdown in some museums of white folks, but in its Coptic form it's the same pharaonic thought. They just changed the language based on a later day way of communication.
Okay.
Coptic.
Okay.
Coptic. You see what I'm saying? But the movement is called Gnosticism. You see,
Okay.
which is fused into Hebrew Christianity and a variation of the modern religions. You see what I'm saying? On that particular aspect. So we always have this cosmic struggle, both on the earth plane and in the human lives
Okay.
and in the spirit plane. But what is the end result of these two planes? And that's what we need to understand. It sets up two worlds. The world of the dark world is the solution that is put into this debauchery to ultimately diffuse it and perfect it. And that's your dark side.
Right.
Because the dark side is really those individuals that got trapped in this debauchery of a creation. You see what I'm saying? And ultimately start set up a series of philosophies and studies that will be the solution to diffusing this debauchery and abortion and counterfeit creation. That would ultimately be what your dark side is. And your light side would be supported by the counterfeit or the debauchery of a creation, giving you another type of philosophy to sustain the counterfeit and the debauchery and the conspiratorial counterfeit reality known as the Matrix, Maya, illusion, hell, imprisonment. You see, and your dark side would be the very thing that would free you, which is the complete truth of the conspiracy. That would systematically, historically, over and over again repeat itself as being evil or being named evil. So in this case, you'd have a complete opposite. That which is bad or named bad is actually good, or the solution.
Evil.
And that which is named good is a deterrence.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
A distraction,
I got you.
a containment, and a incarceration. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
From the solution. Get it?
Got
Get
it.
it. Evil.
The,
You see?
the,
This is the basis of what modern religions are made up off of.
all this shit is an illusion. So, damn. So it's almost like, to me, it's almost like the phrase, curiosity killed a cat.
Yeah.
As far as this whole universal scheme of creation and what I got out of it, and I've been pondering on it myself, as far as like, is it the sparks of the intelligence that's there in the chaos that makes this illusionary universe? I mean,
No, it is the flaw
okay,
of the chaos
okay,
that makes this the illusionary universe. It is the sparks of intelligence, or what they call the shards of the chaos, that will bring light and diffuse the flaw. You see what I'm saying?
So basically, it's the flaw.
It's the flaw.
It's the flaw.
And this creation that we find ourselves trapped in is nothing but a cosmic journey of diffusing the flaw, or the flaw burning itself out, the flaw disintegrating.
It's almost like a science experiment. This is what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
Like a science experiment, and basically you're gonna test it out to get rid of, to find out what it really is, what the problem really is,
Yeah.
to get rid of the problem.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, in so many words, yes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or it's like a cleaning crew coming in to a vile and filthy situation gone bad and start to clean up. You see. But the source and the origin of the vile and filthy creation gets in a struggle. And every time they wipe up something, the source dirties it back up. And it's this cosmic struggle. Meanwhile, the source, because it got there first,
Right.
not being the first in creation, or the first in that ever was, but it was the first to come into this environment and create the problem. But by it being the first there, the time is running out on it, because the ones behind them are a little behind to clean it up, but they got a little more energy because they didn't spend that energy by getting there first.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a catch-up thing
All right.
that has to happen. But ultimately, we catch up.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
So what has become, in my search to unravel the truth, it first started off with something as mundane and social and political as saving black people, as just trying to correct your environment around you, and ultimately of unraveling from the the social, the political, and all of these things fall off to the spiritual, then the spiritual unraveling itself out of moralism and into science, and science unraveling itself off into the core of it, we ultimately find the ultimate solution that this thing goes far beyond even race, because when this was put in place, the white man wasn't even on the doggone planet. And this was a group of black people that was under the behest of the cosmic Archons. And they called them counterfeit spirits. So so the original counterfeit spirits, let me give you the example.
Okay.
When the cosmic abortion and all this went along, not only did the Great Mother try to correct it, when these particular spirits were trapped down in this particular aspect of this debauchery, ultimately they knew that those spirits, by them coming from the source of the divine, they would be the cleanup factor. So when the debauchery itself found out that in actuality that the spirits that it trapped would ultimately be greater than it created counterfeit spirits to come in and confuse the situation. So when the grand man or the grand pristine superior deity came in to clean up this stuff, which would be the origin of who we are, they also created a group of counterfeit spirits that will always be antagonistic with those so-called true indestructible spirits. And this element of antagonism will go back and forth at first with people that look the same, but they're separated from a single essence. One is the true spirit and one is the counterfeit. And later on, out of those counterfeit spirits, they would create another agent, which would be the white man. So when you ask the question, well, if black people created the white man, shouldn't they be responsible? And the white man can't be blamed. But what you don't understand, the white man was created by those counterfeit spirits.
Wow.
That the gods was pulling the strings to make those counterfeit spirits, these scientists,
So black people
create this white man.
So black people, is that to say black people didn't have anything to do with it?
No,
But
you're not listening. You got two people. You got two people. You got an original spirit that comes from the source of the Great Mother beyond the debauchery.
Okay.
Then you have the debauchery that creates its counterfeit spirit, to confuse the spirits, the spirits to do its evil work in maintaining the debauchery with these counterfeit spirits. But both of them look the same. They're all black.
Okay.
And those particular black ones, these counterfeit spirits, would later on result in creating the white man, who would be the modern counterfeit spirit.
Yeah, I got you.
But the original counterfeit spirits were black, which leads to this question that I have held back for over 10 years of putting forth, that we put forth now. Are some of those counterfeit spirits still in existence?
That's my question. That was my next question.
Well, I'm going to break it down right now, and it's going to be unpopular. It's going to be very unpopular. But I will say this. if they are in existence, most of them still resides in Africa.
Mm.
Do the math.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Out of Egypt I will call my son. We will sift out the right particles. They say this cosmic drama is like a fisherman fishing in the ocean. Some fish that are ripe are pulled out. The other ones that are not are thrown back in. You see what I'm saying? Some people that look like us are not of us.
Right.
That's the great mystery. But I do know one thing. These texts that are fundamentally African, that talk about these counterfeit spirits, the dates and the time that they said the counterfeit spirits came, which was shortly after creation, the white man wasn't even on the planet.
Nowhere around.
It had to be two kind of Africans.
So then they got, like you said, made.
And the ones based on the Osirian drama, which means the Great Westerner, that would be the ripe one. So when you get the word righteous, it means ripe. To be the ripe one would end up in the West. Because the Camite texts say it would be the Westerner that would establish Mayat. Well, Mayat is not just some physical laws and order that the courtroom and judicial system is made out of. It is the very essence of putting back right that cosmic abortion. It's called the tikkun in Kabbalah. It's called Mayat in Kemet. And basically it means transmutation, transformation. It's an alchemical process of fermentation. That's why Jesus said, I am of the wine. Dionysus is of the wine. Osiris is of the wine. And it has to sift out a new product from the original. That's what alchemy is, taking something original and making something new out of it. But those new souls had to be sifted out of or called out of a confusion of counterfeit spirits. Some of those left behind. And then you understand why we don't seem to be of a certain people that we were all in the same origin of at one time. See what I'm saying? Some powerful shit.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? But this ain't about no popularity contest. We urge people to study. You see what I'm saying? Some amazing stuff.
It's deep, deep.
Yeah.
Wow.
That gets into a little bit of what the sits and stuff and the which about the grafting and
Yeah, you just gotta take it all and put it back in the African court.
right.
And then you find out in actuality.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So you see the Egyptians
Right.
having Africans tied up on the walls and the temple walls.
Wow.
Then you find out in actuality that there was some people understanding that there was this cosmic battle of this earthly terrestrial battle
Right.
between two different spirits.
Right.
And that's when you see the Norma tablet and the smiting scenes on the walls and temples, and you see these great wars that go on before white people get on the scene. It's a battle between the counterfeit spirits and the true spirits. And then it gets even worse, which asks the question when we first started off about Typhonian versus Amun or the dynastic. The Typhonians end up being blamed and called the counterfeit spirits and so forth and so on. It's real mixed up.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the story changes.
It changes and it's real confusing. You just got to understand the principles because the political thing can be confusing. But we do know now in the latter part You understand? That obviously the hell we went through, that we got to be the true particles.
We gotta be.
Because, no, we are the true particles.
are.
For the mere fact that I'm talking about this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
You see,
Right.
it's amazing.
Yeah. So, how would you know, or do you have the information on how do you know what is a counterfeit spirit, or how can you tell?
It's too ancient. It's too ancient to even contemplate. But we will know the counterfeit spirits. We know that majority of the later counterfeit spirits, whites, have a greater stock. The majority of them.
Right.
It's hard to tell, even in Africa, because not all people on the continent are counterfeit spirits.
Right.
Because they didn't take everybody out of Africa.
Right.
And this has got to come when ultimately the energies are lifted from the spiritual shells that would even hide these things.
Right.
And those energies lifted, the ones that are only spiritual, because spirit is different than the souls. Those that are only spiritual will dissipate and disintegrate.
Okay.
Those who have the true souls will be the true primordial sparks that were sent in to clean up the debauchery.
Okay. Okay.
You see.
So
That's how we would know.
okay. So just for example, some of the Uncle Tom, Negroes, bootlicking motherfuckers like.
It's really kind of unfair and hard to use that as an analysis, as an analogy, because we got a cosmic drama going on here,
Okay.
and it's always a fight.
Okay.
Now it has been brought to my attention, and it's logical, even in my research, that Uncle Tom's a lot of time, if you look at a bigger picture of what's going on.
Okay.
If you look at the smaller picture, it's sad. But if you look at a bigger picture, Uncle Tom's a lot of times were necessary. Because we do know that although we couldn't tell what kind of enemies were in the African skin,
Right.
you could damn sure tell what kind of enemies, what it was between black and white, and we just so happened to be, you understand what I'm saying, on the receiving end of ass whippings,
Right.
losing the war at that particular time. But we understood that the white boy went in fear of knowing that one day this earth would belong to us. So to keep him pacified, a lot of times the Uncle Tom was necessary, because if the white man wasn't so sure that he had the black man in check based on the Uncle Toms, he would have killed us all in our vulnerable state. So the Uncle Tom was a buffer zone, not for the white man to have supremacy over us, but it was a buffer zone for us to also have protection by a person that is paranoid, xenophobic, you know,
Right.
which is a fear of other races. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Sexist in all ways, and a warlike creature, a warfare maniac. So this particular Uncle Tom's a lot of time were pacifiers, and they act as decoys
Okay.
to keep them from massacring all of us, because we know he's capable of doing it. He's done it to other parts of our race before.
Right.
But there had to be, the ones in the West had to be protected. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So therefore that was a part of warfare again. Strategies.
Okay.
Keep your enemies close.
Right.
Keep your friends close.
So,
Keep your enemies
enemies
closer.
Closer. I got
Yeah.
that. So, I've heard you for a number of years. I've heard you talk about AWAS and slaves of AWAS.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. And when you was talking about the white man or the Uncle Tom being a decoy, it kind of reminded me of that great spirit of AWAS, and how AWAS, I heard you use the term slaves of AWAS.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it kind of like put me in a mind frame of dealing with that particular energy of how AWAS or that particular energy used them in so many words, because now we get to the point where I think we had this conversation the other day about how the white man is really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not as smart.
No.
He's really not smart at all. So then when you're dealing with the counterfeit spirits, then
sometimes they need to be manipulated.
Right. That's exactly what I was going with that.
Into working for us.
Mm-hmm.
Haphazardly. In the aspect that they might not be aware of it, but because of their nature is, they wouldn't dare do it. Sometime in the grand scheme of things, they need to be manipulated. Just like the side who had us slavery in the spirit world manipulated us to do certain deeds
Right.
and things to under the behest or to secure their existence or maintain their existence. We also, our side manipulate the people in power a lot of times to do certain things because the people who are the subjects of the people in power are too vulnerable to do it. So therefore, it's a tug of war between these particular principalities in the spirit world.
Right.
And AWAS being a form of Horus.
Right.
And an agent or an angel on our side manipulated Europeans a lot of times. You see what I'm saying? And not just AWAS, it was probably other agents or spirits or angels on our side that had to manipulate Europeans.
Okay.
Europeans to do the bidding in so many words. And give you an example. All this work that we left behind, all these ancient texts that we would need in the future, that we had gone into slavery and sleep. When we came out, we would need these texts.
Okay.
But we were in a stupor state of sleep, and we couldn't translate these texts a lot of times or preserve these texts, let's put it this way, because we translated them before we went to sleep. So we would have a history of putting them in the hands even of the enemy. And the enemy thinking that he is doing good by himself and his people, by preserving these texts, they would ultimately be preserving them for us in a bigger picture of things. And this is the way that we kept certain amount of knowledge on the planet moving. You see what I'm saying? Even when we were too sick to maintain our own information, we use the custodians, which happened to be at that particular time the enemy, to preserve our stuff while we were in a stupor state, so that we would have this particular information when we would come out of our sleep and is ready to regain and attain our knowledge. So here goes again a cosmic drama.
Always.
Of two principalities battling. One against us and one for us. Setting up stuff. Even down to the scriptures that would be used by the counterfeit spirits and the other side to even shut down the so-called true beings and malign them as being evil and dark. There would also be manipulation from the dark side or the true side, manipulating scriptures also in the same books, so that we could also find in the popular texts of later that would malign the dark side, we would also find things contrary to that in the same books. So even when you look in these scriptures that are used for propaganda against the so-called true beings to incarcerate us, you will also find in those same texts
That's right.
truths and mysteries that was put in by both sides. They talk about that in the book, The Secret Books of the Egyptian Gnostics by Jean Dorès, where they talk about one side creating falsehood in the scribe writing of these scriptures, and the other battle of another principality of thought creating the truth and hiding it also within the same scriptures of falsehood that is used to keep a spawn of ignorance, enlightenment, and jewels all through those particular scriptures, in a cosmic battle between manipulating man to ultimately win the ultimate battle. You see what I'm saying? What side's gonna rule? In this case, we win in it.
We will.
Because the side that ultimately would win was the true source of energies that was not a part of the debauchery or the childlike play world, the illusionary world. And that which is not an illusion ultimately has to exacerbate, a better word would be annihilate that which is the illusion, or diffuse that of the illusion. Amazing thing.
Very amazing.